I know how free speech will end.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, this is something we're concerned about in the country, that the First Amendment is going to be taken too lightly if Harris wins. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can't happen. We cannot lose the First Amendment, but I can see how we're going to. You ready?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to link that belief of mine to a story out of Australia. In yet another blow to free speech in Australia, Jasmine Sussex, a breastfeeding expert, is being taken to the Queensland Civil Administrative Tribunal for saying that only females can breastfeed their babies. She's being punished for that. She was sacked from the Australian Breastfeeding Association. Boy, that convention would be something to see.
Wait a minute.
She was sacked from the Australian Breastfeeding Association for refusing to use gender-neutral language. She is one of seven counselors to be formally investigated by the ABA leadership and one of 5 to be fired. The complaint against Sussex is being brought by Queenslander Jennifer Buckley in Queensland's Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Buckley was born male and later identified as a woman and transitioned. Buckley acted after a transgender parent complained to the Queensland Human Rights Commission. Okay, here's what's going to happen. The First Amendment will probably survive in its document form. But if this kind of BS continues, we'll get closer to something I've been saying for years. Pretty soon, you just won't be able to talk to each other because that will constitute an offense.
We're dangerously close to that already in this country.
You've already got a situation at the University of Minnesota where you can be snitched on for using the wrong terms, for example, or the wrong language. Yeah. That's how freedom of speech will be eroded. People will be afraid to speak. That's how it will be eroded. There won't be a government law that says you may not have freedom of speech. They won't need it. What will take its place and serve the same end is to have everybody completely frightened about what they're about to say.
Well, that's communist rule. That's what the commies did.
No bleep.
Yeah, Sherlock.
So there you have it. That's how it, if it ends in this country, I'm not prepared to say it's going to, because GLers aren't going to allow it to happen. You must push back. I happen to believe that only women can breastfeed. Go ahead and try to fire me. Go ahead and try to bring me to a tribunal. We haven't reached that point in this country. For example, what would the tribunal be? And who would determine whether I should be reprimanded for saying that only women can breastfeed? Who would be the arbitrator?
We will determine.
Mm-hmm. But that's how it'll happen.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Aren't these two subjects somewhat related and at odds with each other?
What do you mean?
Well, shouldn't the Democrats say whatever they want about Trump and the Republicans say whatever they want about Harris?
Yeah.
Or should we restrict that?
No, I'm talking about when you get into the world of wokeism, gender and things like that. Harris and Trump can call each other idiots all they want.
Okay.
Is there an exit strategy for wokeism? How are you maxed out with woke, or will woke just continue to snowball larger and larger and larger?
Well, it's snowballing in the failed academy. I'm not sure it's snowballing in our public life.
Will it?
Not if I have anything to say about it. Yes, you in the back in the blue shirt.
I like where John was trying to take it there, because I wish that both sides would shut their damn mouths with that sort of speech. I also would defend to my death their right to say that stupid nonsense. I don't think either side should be outlawed or prevented from saying that. No law, they shouldn't. Do you understand what I'm saying, Joe?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what our First Amendment is.
But, it comes down to decency, John, would be my reaction.
Right.
Stop it. Stop it with that nonsense.
And the marketplace, which in this case should be the election, right? Should be
Yep.
the determiner of what people think is abhorrent and what isn't abhorrent. It should be, but who knows?
Yeah, and it's fine, I guess, if you want to have it out on a social media platform. But I think leaders, party leaders, elected people, they need to check themselves and bring decency back to the equation.
We joked about this before we started doing the show, but isn't that exactly why Elon purchased Twitter for the obscene amount of money that he did?
And now the Democrats are saying, the people on the left, I should say, are saying it's swung too far. The pendulum swung too far the other way.
All right. Pause. I'm going back to Australia. I wasn't completely finished with it. The other form restrictions on speech could take could very well be determined by political identity. In other words, for example, this woman in Australia, Jasmine Sussex, is being sent to a tribunal for merely having said, and apparently she's a breastfeeding expert, she was on the board, for merely saying women can breastfeed, men can't breastfeed. Well, the person who determined that she was a foul there was a transgender person.
Okay.
Jennifer Buckley doesn't even say that Jennifer Buckley has a government job. It's just Jennifer Buckley brought the complaint. Buckley was born male and later identified as a woman and transitioned. He acted after a transgender parent complained to the Queensland Human Rights Commission. So certain weight seems to have been given this fellow, woman, whatever the hell it is. Mm-hmm. Certain weight seems to have been given her merely by her identity being transitioned.
Are there free speech laws in?
Sure. Yes. I don't know that it's as written constitutionally as it is with us, but
once again,
it'd be
facts,
the same as England.
Yeah. Facts, once again, getting in the way of a good narrative. Those pesky facts.
Well,
reality.
I don't think it's in doubt that there is free speech in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think that's in doubt. What is in doubt is your ability to continue to have free speech if, in fact, weight continues to be given to politically identified groups. Look how careful everyone in the United States is to avoid being thought a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Look how careful everyone in the United States is to have a care from appearing homophobic. Because you could say anything, a lighthearted joke, and you'd be called homophobic.
Right.
Look how great care is now being taken with these 68 genders that are now available. And everyone stops and edits himself, thinking, "Oh, I don't want to be gender phobic here." We're facing it with sizes: thin, tall, fat, short. We're facing it in every aspect of life, so long as the so-called victim group has been politically identified as such.
I'm trying to find the episode in our archives, but I almost remember, didn't we have a discussion about free speech relating to COVID in Australia a few years back? Because the Prime Minister, I swear to God, we talked about this on the show.
Oh, we could go down that route in this country.
Do a simple Google search, Rook.
Okay.
Does Australia have free speech rights?
Chris, if you said certain things regarding COVID or the vaccination during the peak of COVID in this country on social, your social account would be canceled.
Yeah. But I remember it being a big issue in Australia.
Oh, it was big here.
Yeah.
Does Australia have a right to freedom of speech. The Australian Constitution does not explicitly create a right to freedom of speech or freedom of expression. Instead, Australia's freedom of speech protections are considered to be implied protections and are rooted in case law interpreting the Australian Constitution and international conventions to which Australia is a party.
So who decides, Joe? Who decides what's allowed and what's not?
Well, I'm going to tell you. In the case of Jasmine Sussex, it sounds like the decision is going to be made by the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal.
Wow.
That's who decides. Was Jennifer Sussex out of line? The case is now before the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Now, we don't have a version of that in this country. We have courts.
Not yet.
But our Constitution has bequeathed to us our inalienable right to free speech. What is happening in this country is we're developing hundreds, if not thousands, of civil and administrative tribunals.
Yeah, the people
they're informal and they're not identified as such.
Correct. There you go.
But they exist.
Yep. They decide. The people that run Facebook, that run Twitter, that run Insta during COVID, they decide what was free speech, what could be said, what could not be said, and they would bar your scan your account.
Hasn't Zuckerberg even come out and said that very thing recently?
Yes, he has. Yep.